Welcome to Brainstorm MTG. I'm ELD, and this is another deck tech for Pauper. This one is Stompy, one of the oldest archetypes in the game. It's been around since the beginning, and I'll tell you, the creatures and the pump spells have improved dramatically over that time. This deck actually features Elephant Guide. Shout out to Kerwin. He's got a lot of history with that card, and that's why I wanted to feature this one on the channel. Thought he'd get a kick out of it, and he probably will enjoy playing it quite a bit. It is a very fun deck. That is the deck list there. This is from Dissonance, found over on MTG Top 8. That's the sideboard. There's a couple of options there, and we'll talk about all of those sideboard cards later, and let's just jump right in. So you're going to need to start out with a 1-drop on turn 1. This is an aggro deck. Nettle Sentinel is actually toward the back of the pack in terms of where you want to go. It's a 2/2 for 1 green. It doesn't untap during your untap step, but it does untap when you play a green spell. The whole deck's green, so you're pretty much getting Vigilance until you run out of gas. This guy can push through a lot of damage in the early game, and he does dwarf a lot of the 1/1s that we see in this format. Silhana Ledgewalker. This is one of your better creatures to be targeting with all of your pump spells. It has hexproof, so you can't get blown out, and you also have the ability that it cannot be blocked except by creatures with flying. There are a lot of flyers in the format, but they're generally pretty small. So once the ball gets rolling, this is an excellent creature in the deck. Quirion Ranger. You see this in a lot of decks running Forest. Just a really good ability. You're able to untap a creature. In this deck, giving a bigger creature Vigilance once it's been pumped by various effects, really ruling over the combat step. And don't underestimate the value of getting double duty out of your Forest. You're able to essentially have an extra land on each turn. If you top out at 2 lands, you still have the ability to return a Forest and replay it to reach to 3 mana when necessary. So you don't have to necessarily draw 3 lands to be casting some of your more expensive spells. Vault Skirge is an excellent addition to the deck. Not necessarily an obvious card. It is black, but you know, you're paying for Phyrexian mana, so you're never going to actually have a swamp there. For 1 colorless and 2 life, you're going to have a flying lifelinker, and you're looking to make a small deposit with your life and gain back a ton after you pump this up, hitting for 4 more per turn. Skarrgan Pit-Skulk, very solid creature here. Versatile as well. It's fine on the first turn. It's better in the late turns with Bloodthirst happening. So kind of no matter where you land it, this is really solid for 1 mana. And creatures with power less than his cannot block it, which means once you start pumping it, this guy has crazy evasion and just can finish out the game very quickly. We're going to move on to the 2 spot here. Nest Invader. This guy gives you a 0/1 colorless Eldrazi token, again letting you reach toward the top of the curve without necessarily having to flood out on lands. It lets you play only 17 forests in the deck. And he's a 2/2, serviceable, and that extra body is worthwhile. One of the scariest 2-drops in the deck here, Burning-Tree Emissary. This gives the deck a bit of a combo potential in terms of spamming the board. Combo might be a little strong, but they have great synergy with each other. So if you draw 2 or 3 or even 4 of these in your opener, this is just going to come out super fast. You play a 1-drop on turn 2, you play a bunch of Burning-Tree Emissaries. With the final one, you play some other 2-drop, and you've really committed to ending the game super fast. You got places to be, and that's going to get you there. River Boa, Island Walk, Regeneration, 2 mana for a 2/1. What's not to love here? This card's been good enough for Vintage in the past. I've actually played against this in the top 4 of a tournament for Black Lotus back in the day, if you can believe that. And here we go to the pump effects. This is what all of the Stompy players love. This is what brings them to the yard. Rancor, since it's been printed in Urza's Legacy, just a tremendous card. +2/+0 and trample. For this type of archetype, it's just perfect. It does address the problem that creature enchantments have, which is if they do trade in combat, you just lost 2 cards. That feels awful. Rancor just comes back to your hand and can go on the next guy. So very, very powerful there. Also, if they draw removal later, then they'll be able to kill your guy, but not the Rancor. It is worth noting, you do need to be careful with all of these creature enchantments. If your opponent does have mana open and they can remove the creature in response, they will still get that 2-for-1. But this is Stompy. You may or may not have a choice in the matter. Sometimes you just got to go pedal to the metal. Elephant Guide. Giving a creature +3/+3 for 3 mana, very threatening. I've seen it mana drained before. Enchanted creature gets also, when it dies, you get a 3/3 elephant token. So even if you handle that beefy threat, there's still going to be another threat in its place. So definitely a strong addition in this deck, giving that permanent bonus. You know, these have really moved away in general from the giant growth effects that dominated Magic in the early years. Now we're getting permanent bonuses when we're investing mana, like Hunger of the Howlpack. So minimum +1/+1 counter. Really what you're going for is that 3 +1/+1 counters, and that is a huge permanent effect for only 1 green mana. That Nest Invader we talked about before does give a body that can easily be sacrificed. And remember, with Morbid, a single creature dying makes all of the Morbid effects happen. So if a creature's died in combat or from any other effect, you're able to pay a green mana and get +3/+3 permanently. And if you have multiple Hunger of the Howlpacks, you can actually play it multiple times off that single Morbid. It's just a kind of a state base compared to a trigger. Vines of Vastwood, great way to trump removal. We were talking before about the problem of getting 2-for-1 in response. If you've got the mana, Vines of Vastwood can protect that creature. It can also protect and pump if you're able to kick it. The plain mode is make it so your creature can't be the target of spells or ability an opponent controls. And then if you kick it, it gets +4/+4. So both of those very desirable in this deck. And the ability to continue targeting your creature also really solid compared to, you know, if you weren't able to keep targeting, the card would be so much worse. Epic Confrontation is a card that isn't in this main deck list. I did see it in a bunch of others, just want to throw it out there. It finds its way into a lot of sideboards. It's going to give the creature +1/+2, and it gets to fight a creature you don't control. So your creatures are generally going to be bigger than most things in this format. So certainly going to be able to beat up on a lot of those tiny little creatures with your beefy green army here. Of course, the deck is not getting cute with its mana base. It's all forests all the time. You're not going to really want to stray into dual lands. Anything coming into play tapped is terrible in this type of deck. And forests have that synergy with Quirion Ranger. So might as well just go all forests all the time. And now we're going to talk about some sideboard options here. Viridian Longbow. This does play very nicely with Nettle Sentinels, the ability to tap and untap them. It also rules over decks full of 1/1, so this can give reach to finish an opponent off if they can start to establish some type of lock where you're unable to push through combat damage, but also can really groom the board, which is something Scattershot Archer does very well also. Very dangerous card versus the decks full of 1/1s. I'm looking at Spellsetter Sprite, Fairy Miscreant, all of those little 1-butts that like to hide out in the air away from where the real action's happening. Scattershot Archer brings them right down to earth, or into the graveyard more accurately. Gutshot, 0 mana, again, delving into this Phyrexian mana territory. You're going to pay 2 life to do 1 damage to a creature or player. Can finish off an opponent in a pinch, but more often than not, this type of card is going to be used to kill opponents' creatures. And of course, setting up that Morbid trigger is much better when you're doing it for 0 mana, giving you as much green mana as possible to play multiple copies of your pump effects. Gleeful Sabotage, very solid card in Pauper. It's actually been good enough for Vintage as well. Destroying an artifact or enchantment with Conspire. So tapping 2 untapped creatures you control, giving you double the effect. In this deck, that is a very high cost. A lot of the time, your creatures want to be going face, so sometimes it's just a shatter. It's sorcery speed, and honestly, when you're bringing it in, that's going to be good enough a lot of the time. Epic Confrontation, again, sideboard slot. When you are facing a lot of creatures, you're going to want to load up on those, not uncommon to go up to a full boat, but certainly 3 of those is welcome. And then a couple of other cards which I thought were interesting, I'd seen in some other lists. Hidden Spider, getting a 3/5 creature with reach for 1 green is serious value. And when you're looking at all of these decks that have pretty much the whole creature base with flying, Hidden Spider is a very interesting choice. And Feed the Clan, another card. I actually like this one a little bit. I don't typically love life gain cards, but gaining 10 life for 2 mana against burn, it could be reasonable. Let me know what you think about that one. Well, I hope you enjoyed this and the look at Stompy or mono green aggro. Let me know in the comments what deck you'd like to see next, and I'll keep doing some of these Pauper deck techs to show you this amazing format. All right, as always, thanks for watching. That's all for this one. If you enjoyed the video, please help grow the channel by subscribing. You'll be notified when we upload new videos like Fast Effect, Double Speed Magic with commentary, or Untapped, our raw tournament gameplay. Thanks for watching.